I guess Carissa doesn't need to be in there. There we go. Good morning. And I hope your Saturday is off to a great start, whether it's the first thing in the morning for you or you're already into your afternoon activities. Thanks for being here today. And we're going to be talking about careers, jobs, dream jobs, and that has a lot of different facets to it. We're going to be talking about what we grew up thinking was going to be our dream job, whether or not we actually had the opportunity to pursue or get into that career, or if we're still looking for it, or looking back in the rearview mirror at a dream job we might have had. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. I need my cup of coffee this morning. I don't know how you were doing, but I really need this morning. I'll give you a few updates in a moment, but happy Saturday, or as Kim Baker says and has already said here, good meowing afternoon and happy Catter Day. And the same back to you, Kim. And hello, Jerry Thompson. Carissa is here. Shalane is here. Hey, Shalane, if you want to, I'll leave it up to you. You have in our Coffee Breaks production thread, there is a link if you want to join and co-host today. You're not required to do it, but now I've put it out there, so you're going to feel a bit foolish if you don't. No, it's entirely up to you. But I am prepared to include you as a co-host today to talk about this, because Shalane actually was the one who recommended this topic, so I'd be curious to get her perspective on it. Anyway, good morning, Shalane. Good morning, Rick. Kathy Garlick is here. Kathy McCormick. Hello, everyone. So as we kind of get into the topic today, a few things. We're all aware, I know everybody's aware at this point about the wildfires that have so heavily affected, so tragically affected Hawaii, the island of Maui, particularly the city of Lahaina, and other areas as well. And there are other wildfires around the country. We're actually experiencing some major fires that they call them wildfires because they typically start somewhere outside of town, but there are several in our region of Washington state right now that are equally tragic. Well, not necessarily equally tragic to what's happened in Maui, but also tragic from the standpoint that several cities and towns have been evacuated. The entire population's evacuated. Many homes have been burned. The news is reporting at least one fatality. And that's not to put a heavy on our conversation today, but I think it's just important that we're aware that there are things happening in our world and sometimes very close to us that impact us. And some of this impacts people in my sphere very personally, that they have friends and family members who've already been impacted by some of this. So our thoughts and prayers, I know that sometimes sounds very trite. We say, well, my thoughts and prayers are with you, but my thoughts and prayers are with all the people who are being affected by things like this, the wildfires, weather conditions, and a variety of other things. And that doesn't mean that we don't also find ways that we can get involved. So, hey, I see that Shalane has connected here. And, I'm going to add her to the stream, but this is going to be kind of weird, because typically when Shalane joins us as a guest or a guest co-host, she's like rolling out of bed with her pajamas still on. And it looks to me like maybe you look like you're actually, like you got up this morning and
I love that you think that. I love that you think that. I was wearing, actually, my bathrobe is dirty and needs to be cleaned. This is actually a backup outfit. I grabbed this wrinkly shirt from a suitcase that's open on my couch right now. So
you know what? I think that's perfectly fine as well. But welcome, Shalane. I'm glad that you're back. Is this like the third week in a row that you have joined as co-host?
Yeah, I think this is all your plot and ploy to have me take over and make this Tea Breaks with Cheech.
Yeah, at some point, you've seen this happen on a lot of the major talk shows, like Coffee Breaks with Steve, and I'm talking about the Tonight Show and Late Night, and other major talk shows like this one, similar to this one, striving to be as good as Coffee Breaks with Steve, but where a new potential host is being brought in and exposed to the audience. We're not going to expose anything, but I mean exposed to the audience.
I put the shirt on.
That's why, me too. But anyway, thanks for being here, because I do think this is going to be an interesting conversation for both of us. It's similar to some of the conversations we've had recently, where getting a generational perspective can be insightful. And we got a number of people on here I think can add to that. Lila Swafford's here. Hi, Lila. It's good to see you on here. And if I, and now we, because Shalane has joined me, have not yet said hello to you, please make sure that we see you in the chat so that we can acknowledge you and make sure.
I can't see comments right now, so
eventually maybe you can. If you click on comments, you might be able to see them, but I'm not sure that.
Oh, that's so fancy. I thought I had to have Facebook open. Okay.
All right. I do have to fill in a couple of updates. Carol, my wife, Carol, Shalane's mom, Carol, same person, one and the same, is working with a consulting company and left last Sunday night for an extended, she has a contract to work with a client on the East Coast located in Rhode Island. And it's a hybrid job, but she is going to be in Rhode Island probably for about a month at a time, and then working from here about a month at a time, and just getting started. She left last Sunday to go to Rhode Island for the first several weeks of getting integrated into the role and meeting the people there. So I'm here on my own, or as Carol would put it, left unsupervised. And on Monday, Carol left Sunday night. Monday, I was getting dressed and I was hearing commotion outside, and then I started hearing sirens. And I walked out. Some of you may have seen this on Facebook because I posted it. But the hillside in our community, right across the street from our house, was on fire. And there were over a dozen fire units here, and they were up on the hillside working the fire. They were here for a while. But
I don't approve of this.
Well, I approve of how quick and how
I approve of putting it out. I don't approve of
yeah.
you setting the hillside on fire as soon as
didn't
Mom
set
left.
the hillside. You know, we could get into a whole conversation about how you and your mom were in Scotland last year when the Queen died in Scotland, and we could start to make associations. I don't want to go down that path today.
I might, but we won't.
Okay. So then, and Shalane, you don't know about this one yet, but here's the other goodie from this week. A couple of nights ago, night before last specifically, I was getting ready for bed. It's late at night. I was probably a little bit foggy brained. I don't know, but I am a fanatic. And Shalane knows this when family is here. I'm a fanatic about don't mess around on the stairs, hold a handrail. I can see the look on your face. I was coming downstairs at the end of the day, had something that I'd had upstairs, and I was just making sure the house was kind of straightened up, and I was bringing something downstairs, not holding the handrail. I didn't turn on the light for the staircase, and I misjudged and thought I was on the bottom step, and I was still one step up, and I stepped out, and my foot went out from under me, and I went down on my back onto the stairs and hit my lower back on the edge of one of the steps. And my first thought was, okay, what did I break? What have I done here? I'm home
and you're alone.
And with my phone upstairs, not with me. My cell phone was not with me. So I gave myself a couple of seconds to judge the fact that I didn't feel paralyzed any place. And it was I kind of landed just a little bit off center. And the short of it is I didn't break anything, but I'm pretty sure I bruised the heck out of my lower back on that side and probably twisted. You know, I'm probably in a few days I'm already feeling some stiffness and
when
it's
was
obvious.
this?
This was night before last.
Okay.
Yeah. And I, you know, but it was, if it had been a few inches, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. If it had been a few inches over or a few inches down, that could have been my spine or my pelvis or hip. And I've been replaying my stupidity over the last 30 some odd hours and going, you know, it wasn't like it was an accident, but it wasn't unforeseen from the perspective that I didn't turn the light on. I wasn't holding the handrail.
I gotta tell you, there have been things, and I'd love to say it's age related, but for me, it's been my whole life where it's like something that I have never struggled with or never thought like suddenly is like it becomes a life or death situation of I don't even remember why I do that. Oh, yeah. Now I remember because this went horribly wrong. Just sometimes it just falls out of my head. So I get that from you.
Well, yeah, that's probably true. Although your mom has also had her share of doing those things. Now, it's been a while.
Combo.
It's been a while since she's had one of her falling down or getting hurt accidents.
You're taking over because she's working in Rhode Island. You're setting things on fire and you're falling downstairs.
I'm not setting anything on fire. I do think that there's a little bit of payback here because I used to tease her mercilessly, as you're aware, about doing things. I mean, I wouldn't, in the midst of an injury, I was always sympathetic for about the first 5 minutes. And then I would just make fun of her. But
it's like when I decided to sleep with my eyes closed and ran into a metal pole. And then
you've had your share.
The first thing I remember is you taking pictures of my profile and
because your
'Cause
mouth, you look like
this
monkey face. Your mouth was
Yeah,
swollen
you
out
guys
to
call
here
me
from
monkey
going
lips
face
for the
first.
next
Yeah.
several years, as I
You
recall.
know,
Yeah.
listen, those
Then
things,
pictures,
S2,
then hospital. Yeah.
well, yeah. And part of it is too, is it's important as a parent to document those things and get
Yeah.
statements right away so that when
Someone sees me at
Child
school.
Protective Services shows up at your door,
Look.
you've got a record that you can refer to.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was kind of my week, Shalane.
Do we need to send Child Protective Services to you, Dan?
Well, I've
Should
already
one of
had
your
some
children come over and
conversations.
protect you from yourself?
You know, I've got family right up the hill. Kathy McCormick mentioned hearing my thoughts. I also was over at their house yesterday and shared this misadventure and kind of made it clear. It's like, yeah, I need to have my phone with me and have you guys on speed dial when
You need
Carol's
a button,
not
the
here.
help I've fallen, I can't get
Yeah,
out.
that I
button.
might actually, because it was disconcerting to say the least. But yeah,
And
that's
discombobulating.
and as my sister Kathy says, this could have been a tragic story that we wouldn't have heard here because because then, well, you would have come on all of a sudden Saturday morning at 9:30 Pacific time. Everybody would have tuned in, and there would have been a
Going,
different
where's
logo.
coffee break?
It's like, oh, tea time with Cheech, and you would have made a tragic announcement. I shouldn't make light of it, and Jerry Thompson saying you need a life alert. Yeah, I think we're getting to that.
We shouldn't make light of it, but this is also, there is something in our family, I don't know, that just goes, wouldn't it be a little funny if? And I know that it's not
and it's
funny.
not ha-ha funny. But well, okay. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? And talk about some special. Should we talk about some special days this week? Look, I guess we're going to, because there it is. But week of August 19th to the 25th. You know, we're actually getting close to we're going to be in autumn, in the fall months very soon. You know what's really weird, Shalane, is that there are places when I was a young child, which was obviously a long ago, when I used to be able to fall down and then just get back up.
Right.
School always started, I think, everywhere in the world, at least in the parts of the country that I knew of. School started after Labor Day. Labor Day in the beginning of school, and it still does in many areas. I think we've got people on here who've got kids who are getting ready to start school in a couple of weeks. But there are so many school districts now that begin even in relatively like early August. They get out right after Memorial Day, and then there's only 2 months. We also used to have pretty much a full 3 months of summer break. Now it's like 2 months and you're back. And part of that is because the requirements have changed regarding how many in-classroom days kids are supposed to be having in order to get their full education, and it cuts down on the breaks, or they sort of spread them out differently. But it just seems so weird that we're getting to the end of August and some kids have already been in school for a couple of weeks. It's just strange to me. And it also,
I can't really speak to that because my school is a medical school, so they're adults, and we say, get over here and do school, and they say, okay, because they're medical students. But well,
but you know, the other thing that comes to mind for me, and we've got a couple of your nephews, of my grandkids, started school a couple of weeks ago. So the month of August, they're back in school, and they're out of school right after Memorial Day. And what occurs to me is, wouldn't it make more sense? The warmest months, the most outdoor months, are typically July and August, that you run school through June, if that's what you're going to do. If you're only going to take a couple of months, or mid-June or whatever, and give them July and August with family to actually take the vacations. And I don't know. I guess
it comes back to purpose. I mean, originally the break was just so the kids could work the fields and help with the.
I think they still should. Harvest, I would like the kids to be here and working the field, which
that you set on fire.
No, I did. It's not. You know what? Your sister Carissa, who is the director of this show and is in the background here today, when I was talking to her about the fire, the fire on our hillside, Carmen, her only comment, and this is dark too, was, "Ooh, I wonder how many marmots burned up." Now I shouldn't even be talking about that on the air, but that's sad. Anyway, we've gone really dark already. we're already dark with this conversation. Let's talk about some
We're so
special days.
dark.
I've got to get back on track here. Special days.
Special
Did you know
days.
that today is National Potato Day?
No, I didn't. Tell me all about it.
It is. It's National Potato Day. And it's a day, and I live relatively close to the Idaho border,
Me too.
which is famous for its potatoes. But this is not just Idaho Potato Day. This is everywhere. Do you have a favorite way that you like to prepare potatoes to eat them?
No, yes, I suppose, because Justin would tell you French fries, I don't share them well. I'm not good at that. I'm
Mhm.
working on it. But French fries it's like kryptonite, and like very if they're French fries, I'm not doing anything else. It's French fry time. So I
Yeah.
guess that.
I'm curious, those who are tuned in here today, I know you're all making, by the way, thank you for the conversation here. There's some great comments going on that others have jumped in and talked about their own accidents. And Lila, I'm glad that you are doing okay, because you mentioned ending up in the ER last week. But I'm curious, as we change topics here, away from falling down and stuff, how do you like, are you a potato fan, and how do you like your potatoes served?
How
So
can
please
you
feel
not be a potato fan? That's my question.
I
If
know,
there are any
and
non-potato fans here, I need you
you know
to
what? I'm
I need you
not
to defend in triplicate and APA format
yeah,
why
so either share
how
your
you can be
favorite
not a
way of
potato fan.
eating potatoes or justify yourself if you don't have right. I like them several. I like mashed potatoes. I like baked potatoes. I love loaded baked potatoes where you just have everything on them, right? You can actually do an entire meal doing a
Kim,
potato what? Kim, are you laughing at Kim Baker?
I am.
Kim, I have to say, I do love reading your comments, and sometimes I just, because I might miss something going by here, I go back and read all of them afterwards. But
Mhm.
anyway, just talking about, I like potatoes a variety of ways. I don't typically search for them under the fridge, but you never know. All right, listen, there's also, we don't always do this, but sometimes we double up on what day it is in a given day. And that's true for today because this is also World Honeybee Day. It's always on the third Saturday in August. And, honeybees are important, essential. I know we've got some people on here today who are raising or have raised honeybees. And for the environment, for our the health and perpetuation of healthy plant life. But also, did you know that they say that if you have allergies, hay fever, or other environmental allergies caused by the plants in your region, that eating local honey that comes from what the bees have produced in your area from those plants
Helps.
can build an immunity to the allergies because you're absorbing now the what I don't know what you would call it. I mean, you're absorbing the
The
product
tannins.
of those
Can we call
plants.
it the tannins?
Maybe you can call it that. Yeah.
You're absorbing the tannins.
And I know some people, Jerry's mentioning she's not a fan of honeybees. There are other, by the way, did you hear that there is a new breed of aggressive hornet now being found
Of
in the
course.
States?
Of
And
course there is.
apparently that one of the issues with them is that they are overrunning some of the honeybee areas. There have already been issues with honeybees. The population's falling off for a variety of reasons in recent years. And whether you are a fan of honeybees or not, they are important, and we need to make sure that we are protecting them. And today, celebrating them. If you see a honeybee in your
Give it
neighborhood,
a hat.
give it a high five.
Yeah.
Not very gently, though, please, very gently.
Very gently.
Tomorrow, the 20th, is this one's, there are all these very specific days that come up with food sometimes. It's like we're not just talking about pecan pie or pecan pie.
Not just.
National chocolate I don't know that I've ever had chocolate pecan pie. I'm highlighting this one because I want to know if this one resonates with anybody.
It's good.
It probably
I've
is
had this.
delicious. Okay, it seems like it would be very rich.
It is, but I see. I'm a fan of chocolate, less so of caramel, and so
Okay,
the caramel sugariness, the chocolate kind of offsets
got it.
that
Okay,
sweetness for me.
I
So
can
I'm a
understand
fan
that.
of
That
this
makes some
combo.
sense. That makes some sense. Did you know that altogether we're going to have another pie celebration day in this mix in a couple of minutes, but that there are a total, according to one of the sites, the site that I pulled this from, 19 different pie celebration days throughout the year, at least one each
That
month.
explains a lot.
It explains a lot. Getting back to our earlier conversations about, some of us getting older, the 21st, which is Monday, is National Senior Citizen Day. And this is one of those that come up every now and then that is legitimately a national day. There was actually a presidential proclamation in 1988 by then President Ronald Reagan, who himself was a senior citizen. So I don't know if that was a bias on his part, but to declare August 21st each year as a celebration of our senior citizens. And senior citizens are off at the exact age that you consider someone a senior citizen varies, I think. It used to be that it just was set at if you were 65, you were a senior citizen. But now I think AARP is sending out applications to people in their 30s to sign up and become a member.
When I turned 18, we got my AARP application.
There you go. So congratulations, you're a senior citizen.
Thank you.
Just saying. Pecans must be in season right now because the 22nd, which is Tuesday, is National Pecan Torte Day. So there are other ways that you can use.
I've never thought of having a pecan torte.
No, and again, I'd like to know if this is one that's familiar to anybody else, but that's the 22nd. Then the 23rd is National Sponge Cake Day. Just to keep in our, if we're going to do nothing but eat dessert.
I was going to say.
We've eaten a potato, so I think we can get
What does America make? Diabetes.
There you go. And then the 24th of August is National Peach Pie Day. So we're not done with and I am a fan of peach pie. I like peach pie.
Peach pie.
That one is one of, if there are fruit pies.
That's a good looking crust right there.
That is a nice looking crust. It's nice looking peaches in there too, and a candle in the background. If that's nice.
Yeah.
And then, as if it wasn't enough, Friday the 25th is National Banana Split Day. So there you go. Did you see Kim Baker? She wishes regular sponges tasted as good as sponge cake. Oh man, I can't even. You know what we need to do at some point? I'm putting this out there now. Kim Baker, you need to join me and co-host sometime. I want these comments being spoken out loud. Don't you think that would be just?
I'm a fan of this. I am a fan of this plan.
The challenge is out there, Kim. So I expect to get a response from you about your willingness to do this at some point, and we'll find an appropriate topic and date to do it. And then I didn't personally wait. Everybody drink. On my calendar, I did not have any birthdays or wedding anniversaries noted for this week, so I don't have any to report, although I want you to put them in the comments if you got one. But I don't know, Derek Nelson has been a guest on this show a couple of times. When we did our update episode a few weeks ago, and Derek sent a recording, and one of the things he mentioned was his excitement that he and his wife, Camille, were expecting imminently the arrival of their first child. And I wanted to report to you that Derek has now posted that he and Camille welcomed their son. And that name is pronounced, that's Case Moore Nelson, was born on July 28th. And there's a picture of Derek. And, we all know that feeling if we've had kids of those moments of just going, okay, I knew it would change my life. I just didn't realize that how much it would affect my heart, that this is, So it might be Gaelic. Carissa's asking, you see Kim who?
What?
All right. Just once again, a reminder that if you have a special day this week and we didn't have it on our calendar, please put it in the chat now so we can celebrate with you. And if you have a special day coming up the remainder of the month of August or coming up in September, let us know about that. And you can email that and we'll make sure that we do put it on the calendar and include that. Oh, I see. That was Kim responding to somebody else saying Kim who? I think. Anyway, all right, listen, I want to get to our topic because we've already taken a lot of time chatting about things like falling on the stairs and fires and stuff. But and pie. But
And pie, so much time
dream
about
jobs. We talk about dream jobs. And I think I said at the outset during my intro that this is kind of multifaceted, because when I think of
Mhm.
dream jobs, Shalane, part of what comes to mind is we grow up as kids with ideas and dreams about what we want to do as a career. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was probably 10, 11 years old, because I was growing up watching the onset of the space program, astronauts going into space for the first time, going to the moon. And
Right.
for me, that was like, well, yeah. But that I'm curious, and I think we do want to talk about this from a few perspectives. One being, what what were your dreams and what you thought you wanted to do when you were a kid? How
Yeah.
did that change? And then talk a little bit about as an adult. I also think that a dream job can be accidental. It can be tied to, now I'm working in a certain industry or even for a certain company or organization. And I hadn't even thought about this, but wow, look at this job, look at this opportunity. And I've had a couple of those in my career. And I can look back and say, if I had a favorite job or something that really kind of became a dream job that came unexpectedly. So I'm curious from your perspective, Shalane, as a child, what was that dream job? And then as you've grown up and time has gone by, how has that evolved?
The funny thing is, I'm realizing as I'm sitting here right now, I became less practical with age. So I remember, and I'm sure you remember,
Yeah,
when I was a child, I wanted to be a teacher.
teacher. And how did
And
you exhibit and exercise that?
it was, I would teach all of my stuffed animals. I would
And
have
dolls.
them
Yeah,
in class, my dolls, and they all had personalities, and I would help them through their homework. And I would
yeah,
lecture at the front of the room and
yeah,
discipline as needed if Sharon was back talking the teacher,
yeah,
my Cabbage Patch Kid.
yeah.
And that's a very practical thing. And it is kind of where I've ended up, which it's funny because in the last couple of weeks, I've done a couple of lectures related to my job at the medical school. So I'm not faculty, but I've been teaching. Um,
Mhm.
so but when I was growing up, and this is still true, I still want to do full-time acting. I still want that. Um, I think for a dream job, my definition of a dream job is that feeling of it's not work to have to go and do it. It is living the passion. It's I can get by, um, make a living from doing this thing that I truly enjoy doing. And that doesn't mean every day is easy, but um, still would love to do that as my day. And the funny thing is, I've had people, and I know this sounds like I'm being pompous, but in relation to that, I've had people from work, if they came and saw me in a show, be like, "Why aren't you doing that?
Right.
Why aren't you like acting full time?" I'm like, "If you want to pay me to do it, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much." My day job is a great job.
Yeah.
It is not as easy a fit for me and as joyful a fit for me as acting would be. So I still hold on to that. It's completely impractical, and I'm still holding on to it.
Uh, and I think it's good to hold on to that. We're going to talk in a couple of minutes. There's some, experts talk about what it takes to actually, why it's important to have those dreams, those visions of what you would like to do, how you can base that. What is that based on? Because for some people, the dream job is all about how much money they can make.
Right.
For others, it has to do with a passion for something like acting or sports. And we also know that when you're talking about some of those professions, professional actors, becoming an NFL football player, the number of people who pursue that or dream about that compared to the number of people who can really make that as a career,
Yeah.
right? It's not always attainable. But I think about I mentioned that when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. I got into high school. My dream job or my career vision, and again, how exactly do you define dream job? Is it this would be the perfect fit in so many different ways, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes the realities don't match the dream, right? Some people get into what they thought the dream job was going to be, that then they go, oh, this wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be, and disappointment sets in, or the need to change gears. When I was a young kid, I wanted to be. I think I wrote down on one paper in school when I was like in fourth grade, third or fourth grade, and we were asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" For one of our homework papers, astronaut or an astronomer. To me, it was about outer space for the reasons I already mentioned. Then I got into high school. And probably along the way, things like, airline pilot, doctor. I mean, I'm sure all those things crossed my mind, all of those glamorous careers, whatever they might be. I got into high school. I got involved in choir, and I got involved in theater department. And I thought through much of high school that I wanted to be and planned on being a music teacher. I wanted to go into music education. And that's where I started my college career. I had played an instrument earlier on, but I never had like piano lessons and stuff that really involved learning. I could read music effectively enough for choir. But I got into college and was involved in the music education program, and suddenly discovered it's like Kim putting earlier here, Kim Baker putting, I wanted to, I originally thought I wanted to, what did she say? I wanted to be an engineer. Was that it? And then God told me, a NASA engineer, God said, math is hard, and put me in law enforcement. I found out that music theory was hard. What was fun for me in high school, and what was also a matter that I was kind of a top dog, not necessarily the top dog, but I was sort of a big man on campus when it came to the music department at my high school, the choir department. And I got to college, and I wasn't the case. And finding out that it wasn't all just fun and singing. Music theory was difficult, and I struggled with it. And it caused me to really start second guessing what I wanted to do. And then I got into a mode. I don't remember what was that prompted this specifically. Ironically, with what Kim Baker was saying, I thought I wanted to go into law enforcement. And I was going to Portland State University. I was actually studying what they call administration of justice. And at the same time, there were openings being posted and marketed for the Portland Police Bureau. Portland, I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time. I applied, and I started going through the civil service test. You had to pass one test at a time to get approved to go to the next one. And it started with some basic things, like comprehension and writing skills and stuff. And then I got into things like physical test, where you had to run an obstacle course and all these things. And each one, it was like sometimes weeks between them. So this was going on while I was going to college for close to a year. And the last two tests that you had to pass were a psychological battery, which was like all day up at OHSU Medical Center going through all these tests. There was actually the last three, a meeting with a psychiatrist and a conversation, and he had to approve you to go to the psychological test, which happened. And then after the psychological test would be the complete physical to see if you were physically capable. And my biggest worry was my eyesight. Nearsighted, and I wasn't wearing contacts at the time, and you had to have a certain vision, non-corrected even. I got through the psychological battery, and then not long after received a letter thanking me for my interest and telling me that I had not passed, and making sure that I understood that didn't mean that there was anything wrong with me psychologically. They were just looking for a certain type. And I look back on that now, Shalane, and I recognize I probably, knowing my personality, I probably would have really struggled being an on-the-street police officer. Now, ultimately, my hope was that I would go into something like detective work or that type of thing. But you got to pay your dues. You've got to spend your time as
working the beat.
Yeah, and I see how that, watching shows and knowing people who've gone into that type of law enforcement and seeing the impact that can have.
Yeah.
Not even talking about the dangers that go along with being on the street, but the impact that has on people. I either would have become very, very cynical, which would not have been good, or I would have folded and
Right.
emotionally not been able to handle it, which also would have been not good. And so
Right.
that ended up, being kind of a good thing that didn't happen. But then I ended up spending 20 years in the insurance industry, which was not, that was going to be a temp job. And I ended up finding, I got into one of the jobs that turned out to be a surprising dream job working in that industry. I ended up in a position that was called with one of the last insurance companies I worked for, that where I was working with IT, but it wasn't just that I was managing the systems in our office, and they trained me what to do with that.
Right.
So it wasn't like I was already an expert or had a degree in IT. They trained me to do what they needed me to do and to know when to turn it over to somebody who had more knowledge and experience. But one of the things I got to do was train my fellow employees. And ironically, I wanted to be a music educator.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching also been a primary thing with me that I've had the opportunity to do, even teaching Sunday school at church as a volunteer. And
Mm-hmm.
so that for me has also been a dream job, is that opportunity to instruct or to teach. I think it is part of my makeup. It is part of who I am.
Do you have, so you've gotten a chance to do that. Do you have now anything where you go, gosh, if this opportunity was suddenly presented to do such like now you and I kind of have talked about there's a space hotel opening up. I could see you going up to the space hotel for a week,
Yeah.
not necessarily being an astronaut, but just that 1 week experience kind of thing. Is
I
there
would,
anything
I
that
think
you
I
would go,
would.
I want this. I want
Yeah.
this thing.
There is a part of me still that looks at that and looks at some of the things that are now being made available through private, space travel where people can. I would never pay $250,000 to do it, but
You could
there
be the
is a part of me
host.
that says I would still. Oh, that's still in there. That's still in there
Yeah.
someplace to want to do something like that.
I
Yeah,
wonder if you could be the hostess for the space flight.
the
Welcome,
hostess.
everybody.
Yes.
Welcome. I'm your
Welcome
host.
aboard. There are emergency exits on both sides. Do not open those because we're in
Don't do
space.
it.
Um,
That's space.
there are still things. I mean, it's not surprisingly within our family. You're not the only one. Carissa mentioned it earlier on the comments here, but acting. I
Yeah.
still, I still want to get involved in community theater here. I haven't pursued that as actively yet as I should, but I've gotten some leads on how I can go about doing it. Um, I'm at a stage now where it's definitely not about, well, I want a well-paying job. It needs to pay well. It needs to be something now that is a passion completely. In the past, I had to balance that, right? You understand. We
Right.
talked
The
about
have
that, the
to with
day
the want.
job, the have to a degree. And then the other question is that I think is important for people with that in mind is, is there a way internally to set your own mind toward the idea that it's kind of, do I have the job I love, or can I love the job that I have?
Right.
And that's not as, I understand that's not as simple as just saying, oh, I'm just going to learn to love this job. But
It is
there
a
are
choice
times,
in mindset, though. There's definitely a place where you hit a crossroads and go, I'm going to appreciate this, or I'm going to dunk on it and complain about it. There is that
yeah,
choice.
there's that. And it doesn't always mean that becomes the dream job. Like you go, oh man, that was the
Right.
best job I ever had, blah, blah, blah. But I think that there is an element, and this also depends on boss culture, dynamics of the workplace itself, of do you have opportunities to craft your job in a way that to have some influence over saying, look, this is how I would like to have my job evolve. This
Right.
is what, or this is where I would like to go within the company or organization. And again, I've had a couple of those opportunities that did turn out to be something of dream jobs. I've had several what I would call fulfillment of dream jobs along the way. And with that, I have experienced times when the reality of getting into the job was not as glamorous or not as fulfilling as my dream or expectation of it,
Right.
right? Um,
Yeah, I had that with the selling wedding dresses and doing bridal. I there are pieces of that I will always enjoy, and there were so many things on the business side of it that were just it just felt grimy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I do think there are several things. There was an article, I'm not going to go into all of this, but there was an article Forbes posted online beginning of this year. It's back in January. It was done by a lady by the name of Tracy Bowers, PhD, senior contributor. And she says, I write about happiness, work-life fulfillment, and the future of work. It's her area of expertise. And she herself is, I'm scrolling to the bottom here to kind of, she's a PhD sociologist and the author of The Secrets to Happiness at Work, Exploring Happiness, Fulfillment, and Work Life. And she has some other works that she's done, but she talks about things to consider to find your dream job. And, I think more and more finding your dream job does not have to be age related. Yes, I'm at a stage in life where I'm not looking to build a career path, right? I'm essentially retired, and we talked about that last week. What does that really mean? It just means I'm not building a career anymore. That's my personal definition. And I'm not going to read everything with this. I'll see, maybe I can post the link to this article, but it says it's finding your dream job is a matter of your perseverance as well as your perspectives and the options you create for yourself. And she says, here are the best strategies, and I won't go in, but consider the core. When you consider your dream job, give thought to what is at the core of the job that makes it ideal. If you want to be a pilot or a flight attendant, for example, is it the travel, the adventure, or freedom which makes your heart race? And she goes into more detail about that. Yeah. Consider the effort. If you're thinking about your dream job, also give thought to what it will take to get it. In terms of education, in terms of starting at a lower level and working up toward that, a variety of things. Consider the impact. Give thought to the impact your dream job will have on you and on others. And that can be in a variety of things, right? It can be, does it fulfill something in you that makes a difference in the lives of others? Is it going to require so much of you that it's going to burn you out, or it's going to affect your family and others around you? Getting there, she talks about how to get there is your best bet to find your dream job is to stay close to the field, build your network with people who are in the job already or who work in roles which are similar. And she goes,
that's why I keep close to you, is because you now with coffee breaks, you schmooze.
This is your key.
So many people, like my break is going to come through coffee breaks. I'm pretty sure at this point.
Yeah. The final thing that I'm going to mention that she talks about, because this one, it resonates with me, particularly at this point in my life, she says, think beyond a paycheck. We do have to do things that earn money. We have to pay the bills. But she says, give yourself permission to do what you love to do without drawing a paycheck. So in other words, your dream job may not have to be a job at all, but rather the way you spend your time beyond a traditional paid role. It can be your volunteer work. It can be the involvement in community theater. Or, like in my case, the number of years when I decided I couldn't be a music educator, the number of years I was able to spend directing choirs, even at church, and how fulfilling and completing that was a dream job. That was a dream job for me, even though I didn't get paid to do it. So I want to continue to hear, if you have been following this today, continue to make your comments. We're going to be finishing up here. And if you're tuning in later on Facebook or on YouTube and you've been watching this, share your comments as well. And you can still be part of the conversation, and we want to hear from you. So any last thoughts? We'll talk about what's coming up, Glenn, but do you have any last thoughts?
Last thoughts. I'm curious how many people, when it comes to your dream job, I'm curious if it comes down to the fact of you being chosen for this opportunity, because acting is all about, did somebody choose you and cast you or not? But even the astronauts, the whatever your dream job is, unless you are an entrepreneur, but somebody is choosing you for that role.
Any of those, if you're an entrepreneur, you still have to have a client base. You still have
you still have to have somebody to invest in, all of that. So I'm curious how much of it comes down to just a desire to be chosen. Yeah. So that's my last thought.
That is interesting as well. Good. Well, let me talk a little bit about what's coming up in the next few weeks, because I want you back next week.
I'll show up. Maybe.
Okay. Maybe you will, like you did today.
Yeah, maybe.
But maybe you'll have your bathrobe back.
Maybe I'll have. We'll see. Because if I do laundry.
It's interesting how these last few topics, last few weeks, and going forward to next week, kind of tie in together, because we're going to talk about our own experiences with the best boss we ever had and what made them a good boss, and the worst boss we ever had, and what made them a bad boss. And it's like, what's the difference between being bossy and being the boss? What's the difference
Right.
between giving orders and being a leader? We're going to talk a little bit about that from the standpoint of leadership, and share some things from people who've even been on coffee
I
breaks
have
in the past to talk
thoughts.
about leadership. I have thoughts as well. And we'll see. Hopefully, it's not just going to be that we're going to be ragging on people that we don't like. I don't want us to be throwing names out there of bosses we didn't like. We're going to talk about their characteristics, not throw individual names and individual people into the bus.
Aw.
So they'll be like, person A, boss A. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. In 2 weeks, and this is, again, if nothing postpones, because Carol's out of town, I'm going to be joining her pretty soon. But if everything stays on schedule, I'll still be here, and we're not going to have to put off or postpone. In 2 weeks, we're going to hit episode 200 of Coffee Breaks with Steve, and we're gonna be celebrating in some special. Maybe I'll have you back again for that one.
I'll just keep showing up, and then
But
you'll
you have
say,
to wear
"What are
a
you
party
doing here?" I'll
hat.
be like, "I thought I live here now." And
Yeah, you have to wear a
yeah,
party hat for that one.
I'll
And
find one.
one of the things we're going to be talking about is what we see happening in the coming episodes after episode 200. No major changes. Coffee Breaks is going to stay Coffee Breaks. We're not converting it to Tea Time with Cheech yet or anything, but we do have some things that we want to introduce that will just add to what we're already doing, and we're going to hopefully talk about some of those things and share some of those on that 200th episode. Maybe reaching out to some of our past guests to see if they want to include any thoughts or
How many people can you
recollections.
get on this stream all at once?
10 at any one time, I think, can be on here, is what I
So
understand.
you're all invited.
Yeah,
I'm just-
we're all, anybody who wants to be part of the party. Oh, maybe we'll do that. We'll talk about that between now and next week and see what. Do you see how Kim Baker put
I
this
like
tea
that a
time
lot.
with Cheech? I love that.
I
That'd be
do like
great.
that a lot.
And then listen, in 3 weeks, this is another one that's going to be really special. I had an opportunity so many of you already know Dee Dee Kiso. She has been on the show as a guest. She has often been in the conversation, colleague of mine from my time working in nonprofit in California. Dee Dee is now the executive director of an organization called the Saber Six Foundation, which was founded by a gentleman by the name of Chris Calendez, a retired colonel in the U.S. Army, and who served as a commander of a paratroop corps in Afghanistan. And he has, he's a West Point graduate. You're going to hear his story, and you're going to hear about why he founded this foundation, the Saber Six Foundation, which is dedicated to remembering those who have died, particularly in recent wars, and serving those who have come home, the veterans, active military and veterans of those wars, their families, because many of them have suffered from PTSD, and the suicide rate among returning soldiers and veterans is very high. And he is dedicated, Chris is dedicated, and the Saber Six Foundation dedicated to providing resources, not just to deal with that, but to really equip those who've come home after serving to be prepared to have fulfilling lives and to incorporate their families into that. That's probably sounds very convoluted. You'll want to hear about the Saber Six Foundation and some of the really interesting things they have already done and have coming up to bring attention to their work and to raise money. So we're going to have both Chris Calenda and Dee Dee Kiso on in 3 weeks. And finally, if you have topics, we're moving forward with Coffee Breaks with Steve. If you have topics or guests that you would like to see, or how frequently you want Shalane to be on here, let us know. She's available, I think, every single Saturday to be part of this conversation.
Always. Like I said, I live here.
It is what it is. So listen, Shalane, any final thoughts about all that we've talked about today, or what do you have going on this weekend?
Oh gosh, this weekend, I went to go make myself a drink for Coffee Breaks with Steve, and I went to go make myself a smoothie, and then I saw there was a slice of pizza, so I did that instead.
That's your weekend right there.
That's my weekend. I might just be that level of lazy all weekend.
That's okay.
And
nothing wrong with
I
that.
personally approve of that for myself.
All right. Well, listen, for all of you out there, thank you for being part of the conversation today. Thank you for being a part of the Coffee Breaks with Steve family every week. And Shalana, I want to thank you again for being here. I mean, we joke around
Being
about it a
family,
lot.
Dad.
What's that?
Thanks for being family.
Yeah, thank you for being family. But I do really enjoy it when we have the opportunity to banter and to sort of ping pong the conversation off of each other. So thank you for throwing on a wrinkled shirt or whatever, just so that you could tune in and be part of it. But listen, for all of you out there, you know, we talked at the outset about some of the things that are affecting us: wildfires, there's weather, there's just the impact of so many different things that happen that we know of, that maybe it's our next door neighbors, maybe it's within our own family, maybe it's with our community or well beyond our immediate community, but we all have something that we can do. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks.